at 3:02. I'm going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Berta, you want to do the roll?
Director Daddy,
Present.
Director Thielke,
Here.
Director Wyrick,
Here.
Director Finch, and Chair Hages.
Here.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item. The next item is the director announcements and reports. I'm going to start with Peter.
Nothing to report except I survived another annual meeting with Senior Canyon.
There you go.
So that's an accomplishment.
Should you be selling tickets?
Next year.
Okay.
It was Zoom. It was a Zoom meeting once again. Hopefully it's our last one.
Jim, do you have anything?
Nothing to report.
Bill?
Yeah, just be short about it. We, a delegation of people from the city of Ojai, including councilpersons Haney and myself, Jordan Keir, and city manager James Vega, we had an opportunity to go talk to Department of Water Resources. I really want to publicly thank Jordan. He was absolutely very valuable addition to that. And there was a really high level of discussion regarding the role, the SGMA and the relationship between surface water rights regulation and groundwater sustainability plans and the issues raised by the adjudication, and only underscored the importance of the judge allowing the three public agencies to be parties to a mediation that we are currently engaged in. And apparently we've agreed on, I think all three parties have agreed on a mediator now. So I'm going to be, I think the public should be happy that we're cautiously optimistic of taking the judge's opportunity, take advantage of the opportunity the judge has provided.
Yeah. I appreciate you and the city doing that. There are four parties to the...
Four parties, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Bob?
Not much. I did have an opportunity to talk to the engineer at Casitas and got some interesting news, but I'm not sure if you were going to say this, but it does involve the Community Facility District. We're getting closer and closer and closer to have the Ojai Avenue main pipeline replaced. And that's a 1,600 gallon a minute pipeline. I wish they would go to a 10-inch since the hole's there and go to the 3,000 gallon per minute, because our fire department is conditioning projects at 2,000 gallons per minute, and we're finding that even the new Grand Avenue line doesn't meet those standards. So with that, that's all I have to say.
Okay. I think that pipeline has other sources, though, so I don't know that that's the absolute capacity at any given point.
I'm not sure, but it'll be interesting to
Yeah.
hear the final details. And
Yeah.
Maybe somebody at the city can have the fire department minimum requirements sent over to Casitas so they can take a look at that. Because we also have some issues where somebody put in they did a big room addition, and fire department came over and said that they didn't have enough pressure in the sprinkler on Country Club, even though he has 150 PSI at his regulator at the outside of his house. So there seems to be something, I saw that look, that something,
Yeah, it makes
there
sense, yeah.
seems to be a misunderstanding of what is. And the only ones that can really satisfy that are going to be Casitas, not the city. So,
All right, well, I'll see what I can find out too. I'm not looking forward to that pipeline job on Main Street personally. Don't call me. Okay, Casitas, I don't have anything particular other than, as Bill said, we're gonna, four-party mediation is gonna start. And, I'm hopeful it's gonna be productive and we're gonna solve some of this and save ourselves some money.
And get ourselves into improving the watershed rather than paying lawyers.
Right. Okay, the general manager is not here. Basin status report. Jordan?
Thank you, Chair Hages. I'm going to try to share the content here. I'm putting my phone. Give me a minute to make sure that this shares appropriately. We can go through some of the information that that we've downloaded this week, and
And you know that we can come to in some kind of a presentation to everybody when we get it all figured out.
Probably not.
What's going on here?
Are you still there, Jordan?
He went away.
Probably rebooting. All right, while Jordan's getting ready, I'll ask for public comments on items, any item that is not on the agenda that pertains to the groundwater agency. Okay, hearing none, close that. Second item is consent, our next item is consent items. We don't have anything on the consent agenda. And following
are you
that,
still there?
are you back?
I'm back. Sorry about that. Let
Okay.
me see if we can do that again. Changing the settings a little bit always has some effect, it seems. So let's see if I can go through some of these again. And all right, just a quick 10-slide video or the photos here today.
There they are.
All right, very good. Okay, so sort of a bit of a tour through the watershed real quick, up from San Antonio Creek. This is the Old Creek Road Bridge. You can see a good amount of flow still in San Antonio Creek down there, but not that much per se. Is the orientation right on your screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I'm going to scan along here. Here's the confluence of the Ventura River. This is the confluence pool. You can see the algae starting to get really pretty thick in that area. Obviously, plenty more water in the Ventura River proper than the San Antonio Creek side. This is where that flow starts. It's part of our ongoing database collection of the daylighting of groundwater flow from the perch system in the Ojai Basin. It's still creeping downstream as expected, despite the rains and despite rapid response of the basin to that in both the perch system and then the delayed response in the main portion of the basin. Here's another image of that Old Creek Road area. You can see the flow relatively still in that stretch before the confluence of the Ventura River. Here's where we are monitoring the creek flow. This is just at the basin boundary on San Antonio Creek proper. You can see how it's very verdant, of course. This is the April image where you have our transect line. Pretty quiescent flow, once again, I'll give you the numbers here in a minute. Of course, Montgomery Creek, or also known as Fox, has a decent amount of flow, and that there's any. This is all coming from the perch system, of course, and the watershed on the west side of the basin. So what are these numbers? This is where we are. That 0.29 CFS is this week's measure. 0.4 CFS, 27th of April. That Montgomery Creek or Fox Creek flow is 6/100ths of a CFS. So our total outflow from the perched system is that 0.35 CFS right now. So that's close to about 200 gallons per minute flowing down San Antonio Creek out of the Ojai Basin, exclusively out of the perched system. Here's one of our other favorite graphics here. You can see where in the daily rainfall, we had a little bit of the mid-April or early April, late March precipitation. You can see how that's responded here on a number of fronts. Precipitation itself on the top chart. And then in the main chart, you can see where we're paying attention to the cross basin flow. That last hairline that goes all the way up shows continuous flow right at that end of March, beginning of April storm. And then a really rapid decline in how flashy it is. But we do see a little bit of a response in the red. That's that hydrograph at the top is the 190 to 210 foot hydrograph for the San Antonio Creek Spreading Grounds Rehabilitation Project depth discrete monitoring well. The one right below it is the 255 to 295 foot zone. You can see how it's the bedrock well, CESP. It's much more lagged behind the storm flow peak and recedes at a little bit different rate than the shallower alluvial material. The blue squares there, the light blue squares, that's actual measurements of that daylighting of groundwater as we've mapped in the GPS system. Once we get down into the hydrographs of the basin, you have that yellow graph. That is the perched aquifer right there, which correlates very well to precipitation. And below that, in the darker blue, you have the Elrod well, which of having hit the main basin peak in April earlier this month. The main system in the depth discrete monitoring well, a little bit lower elevation on the orange line, and that's the main aquifer underneath the level for much of the late winter to the early spring. There's not a lot of change. The demand really hasn't picked up too far yet. We see a relative steep decline in that's the actual CFS flow in San Antonio, below that dashed line right there as we are receding from the storms all this year. But
Jordan, you're starting to fade out.
Uh-oh. Okay, let me zoom in on a couple of these and maybe sit closer to the microphone.
Yeah, that's better.
Some of those in a bit of time. Is that better? Okay. So up at the top graph here, this is the San Antonio Creek Spreading Grounds Rehabilitation Project depth discrete monitoring well. The rapid responses and attenuation both to the December rains and then the end of March to beginning of April precipitation events. In the main system, in the heavier weighted line here, you see that horizontality that I was describing there earlier. It's all at the south central depth discrete monitoring well. The perch system being the lightest of the lines, precipitation and correlating very well to stream flow. Whereas that broken line is a intermediate depth logger that doesn't respond the same as either of them. It's sort of isolated and we're subject to in-bore issues that we clearly see as lowering and raising of the logger itself, as we have as we've done some additional development on that well, as well as the change in depth of that logger itself. So to be continued there. Here's what's happening in San Antonio Creek. This is the basin outflow. You can see we really just have about 4 spikes of precipitation that result in that stream flow owing to the flashy nature of the system. And the rest of the time, it's a very gentle attenuation, highly correlative to the perched aquifer system in that area. And this is the interesting point to where we, as Director Wyrick mentioned, what can be done about improving the watershed is really addressing that system. And that's much of what the discussion we had with the Department of Water Resources up in Sacramento the other week was all about. So very happy to continue this monitoring. It's a key component of implementation of the GSP, and these data are certainly invaluable. So thank you very much. I'll field any questions here and stop share.
Hey, thank you, Jordan. Any questions by the board?
Well, where are we, Jordan, in terms of estimated percentage of capacity at your latest look at that for the production?
I don't have a number off the top of my head right now. Okay. That's something that I think we're kind of working with DUDEC on that. And in fact, what I am best suited to do is get that absolute number of the Elrod well capacity as the key well, and then coalesce with Trey and company for the making sure that it's consistent with the regression modeling analysis
Sure.
that we've included in the GSP.
Yeah. Thank you.
Any other questions? Any questions or comments from the public? All right, thank you, Jordan.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is the update on the groundwater sustainability plan. Who wants to handle that?
Hi, Chair Hages. This is Devin with DUDEC. I'll be handling it today. We just have a quick update. So in the past few weeks, we've submitted the monitoring network wells and groundwater level data to the Sigma portal. And we've coordinated the migration of the CASGEM wells that are part of the groundwater sustainability plan monitoring network with the county. We coordinated the transfer of those wells also to the Sigma portal. And we've been working with John to identify grant funding opportunities for implementation of the GSP. So at this point, DUDEC has completed all contractual items, and we have some remaining budget of about $40,000. We're waiting right now for DWR to finish review of the GSP, at which point we'll address whatever comments we receive and make edits as needed. That's about all we have for now.
Okay, thank you. Has DWR made any requests for any additional information since we submitted it?
Just for the submittal of the groundwater monitoring network and groundwater levels to the Sigma portal, okay, which we've been coordinating with them.
All right, thank you.
Chair, I'd like to ask for clarification. Would you go back and explain what the, quote, we have 40,000 left on the budget means? Does that mean you completed the task with 40,000 left that we didn't spend? I'm not really sure what that means on the budget.
Yeah, that's exactly what it means. It means we came in with an estimated cost and we're below that total cost. So we have some remaining budget, noting that we still do need to address comments from DWR and potentially make some revisions to the GSP. So we're in a good position right now to do that once we receive comment.
Okay. So what this means is we're good for now, but we got a lot longer game left and we have some reserve.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
When do they have to get, or what is their deadline on their comments? I forget.
Yeah, I don't recall that off the top of my head either. Trevor, are
Oh,
you?
it wasn't that
do you
long.
recall?
It was long, though.
I want to say it's 2 years, but I could be wrong. So it's worth us double checking, and we can relay that back to you.
We're-
But the comment period is 90 days, isn't it?
Oh,
Public comment.
Public, but
Yeah.
their comment, I was gonna say a year, but 2, it could, yeah.
If it matters at all, we tried to intrigue DWR to put us higher in the stack. So, for various reasons.
I thought you were gonna say that you tried to get them to say what they, initial impressions or
No,
something.
no. They like 70 or 80 have come in, and they said, so, but we tried to,
Yeah.
say, hey, there's a lot of issues here that you might want to look at ours earlier rather than later for what it's worth.
All right. Okay, anything else on GSP? Okay, the next item, 8B, is well owner payments update. I talked to John, and I think Bill had talked to him as well about coming up with some type of aging report so that we know how many wells are delinquent. We're not gonna know what they owe because they have to,
We have to report.
Yeah.
Then we don't know what they owe, but we got to
Yeah.
get the report in.
so I think we can put together an aging report that shows how many quarters, how many well owners and how many quarters they're behind.
Yeah.
So we can keep track and start zeroing in on some of the ones that are the most behind.
And you know how a lot of reports, Roberta, are like, they'll have age 30 days, 90, 120 or more. It'd be nice to have it organized that way, so the ones that are really late, we can,
Yeah, yeah.
and it wouldn't have to be identified. I understand there's some issues there, but what about that? Is it just by grouping, or can we actually have a listing of people who haven't reported?
Probably not.
Probably you could have
Well numbers,
Yeah,
yeah.
well numbers.
You could have well numbers.
All it would be quarterly, I
Okay.
would think.
Right.
Yeah,
1 quarter, 2 quarter,
yeah.
1 through 4, and then you
And then
probably-
beyond
and
that.
then go years.
Yeah.
Year or more, yeah.
So the payment and reporting is due 30 days after the quarter, is that how it works? Okay. So the other thing I would suggest is, depending on the, how many and how far behind some of these are, we might want to develop a policy for what kind of action we're going to take if there's, way behind. Have some drop dead time when we have to take some action, whether it's to put it on the tax roll or whatever it may be. So,
And the other, can I make one other comment, Chair? I think we also cleared up that our ordinance does not allow de minimis exceptions on the reporting. Thought we cleared that up.
Yes, that's accurate. It's Peter Candy. There's no exemptions for reporting. There's no exemptions from the wellhead fee payment. There's no exemptions from the base extraction charge. The only exemption is for the additional Sigma extraction charge of $37 per acre foot.
Yeah.
Exemption for de minimis extractors.
Right. But
That is
everybody
the only
reports.
exemption.
So it's usually 77.50 or 82.50 is the minimum for the de minimis.
There is no de minimis exception for reporting by ordinance.
No, yeah, that's what I just said. Apologize if it
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
clear.
0, it would be.
The only exemption is for the additional extraction charge. There's 2 extraction charges that are in effect
Right.
right now. There's a $25 per acre foot extraction charge. No exemptions for that. There's an additional extraction charge of $37 per acre foot. That's to fund ongoing Sigma development.
Right.
An exemption for de minimis extractors from that particular extraction charge.
And that, to me, that's what's important, is the accuracy. That's why we're gonna get more data, better data.
Yeah, we could use the money too, from the looks of our
I have
situation
I
here.
have a couple questions about this whole metering situation. First of all, I'd like to know who purchases the meters? Are those meters owned by the individual well owners?
Yeah.
Okay. So what about, like in the water world, typically meters are changed every 5 to 8 years because meters never run fast. They only run slow as the friction builds up in the particular meters. Some of them, I don't know, are electronic, maybe not, maybe they're mechanical, I'm not sure. But basically that can be a huge difference if you have these meters. In Senior Canyon, for example, we've had meters that have been operational for 20 or 30 years that we've had to change out. And it is a significant difference in the revenue. So that's one question I have. The other thing with, this is, I don't say this is widespread or anything, but we had a situation where one of our shareholders, we installed a new meter to replace a very old meter. And our crew kind of kept an eye on it, watching the usage, monitoring it for just a week or two. And we're not sure who it was, but this was a brand new meter. And somebody came to that meter and just turned it around. Takes about 5 minutes to reverse a meter. So the potential for abuse is there whenever water is metered, the quality of the meter, how old it is, any kind of thing like that. So it seems to me that some safeguards would be in order as a future discussion topic for us. For example, if you have, Jim will tell us what's the average usage of an acre for oranges, 3 acre feet per year, 3 acre feet per acre per year. And then kind of do a rough analysis of if somebody's, got 20 acres planted, well, how much water should they be using typically? To just kind of get a rough ballpark of whether people are falling in those guidelines. Because I think it's an area that can be really ripe for abuse. And what you have, the problem is you have people who are doing it properly and well, they're covering most of the bills, and people who are maybe cheating here and there or whatever, being irresponsible, not paying their bills, everybody else pays for those people. So I think it's something we should look at down the road as a group and see if we could come up with some ideas to kind of clean this process up.
Well, I think one of the things that the typical water agency does is if a meter's stuck for some reason, they'll estimate the bill based on historical use. And I would suggest that if we don't get some of this reporting as we should, that may be the way to deal with it, is go back and look at historical use and bill them accordingly. If they can demonstrate that maybe, they took the crop out or something, we can allow for that. But I really think long-term, if we could find some money, putting in meters that are auto read by radio.
Or texting meters.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's not that expensive. We don't have that many.
Mm-hmm.
And then consider doing a billing on a tax roll. And I've done that before. I've done it with sewer, and it's very clean. You have far fewer problems. The only downside, of course, is you get 2 payments a year, and so it's after the fact. So we'd have to deal with the cash flow issue. But I think it would be. It's not that hard to do with the
Why
county.
only 2 payments a year?
They collect taxes in
I see.
December
I
and
see.
April,
Okay.
so you get your big hit.
I see.
I think you get the money in January and then the next one. But I think it's worth looking at, and I think if we could, there's maybe grant funds out there to improve the metering system and put in something that is, self-reports basically.
Yeah.
When you say that's not expensive, any kind of idea? Are we to have people with much bigger properties that are going to need much bigger meters, and we're going to get in a much more expensive
Yeah, well, the
They're
meter-
gonna be
yeah.
the same, or are they gonna be all different?
It depends on what kind of meter is in there. A lot of these auto read systems, you just replace the register and you can keep the meter. It depends on what they have. But in general, it's a few $100s for that portion of it. The meter themselves, we have discussed a policy in the past about having them test it, or developing a standard for what kind of meter it's replaced with eventually. But I think for now, we don't have the money to do that. I think we ought to look at getting that aging report. Let's look at who is delinquent. I mean, if there's a whole bunch of small wells, we can address that some way. But I think looking at a policy where if someone doesn't report, we estimate it, send them a bill, and if we don't hear from them, we can talk to the county about levying it on the property.
One last thing, Chair. Mr. Candy came up with a number of items about what rules are what rules. I think that it's time for us maybe to have those stipulated and sent out to the water users and let them understand what the current rules are. Because I will bet you a nickel that we have people that are thinking, well, I do this, I don't have to do that. If we've come up and we've figured that about the de minimis, let's put it down, let's make sure everybody gets it, everybody's got a fair shot.
Yeah.
I don't believe we've got a lot of people that, go off the path on purpose.
No.
I think a lot of it is just, hey, I've been doing this for 20 years, when was the change? And so I think we let them, and it's not that this is a change, it's just let them know what the current rules and conditions are. So I think in fairness, that we just need to bring everybody up current as to what the current rules are. And see if we couldn't get that done really quickly.
Yeah, Director Gaddy, just to address that, I have drafted a letter that was sent to John Mundy, and this is a generic letter that would be sent to all well owners doing exactly what you mentioned. That's advising all well owners of what the current requirements are. And we haven't finalized that letter, but it is in process. And it seems to me we can bring that forward to you at the next board meeting.
Great, thank you very much.
Yeah, the idea was we'd send that to all the delinquent well owners, but I think what I'm hearing you say is maybe we should send it to all well owners within the agency's jurisdiction. So everybody's up to speed and current on what the requirements are, and then maybe do a separate letter to folks that we know are delinquent.
Yeah.
Advise them of their delinquency and what the penalties could be if they don't come into compliance.
I would be in favor of looking at other things too. For example, perhaps subsidizing the well owners for improving their meters. Meters are expensive. Now, if you can just put the register in there, that's not too bad, but there are other meters have to be replaced. A 2-inch meter can be $1,400. So it's to our benefit to have an accurate meter. And we should recognize the well owners, perhaps a subsidy where, they replace their meter and we give them some kind of break for that or help out with that. I would be open to looking at anything like that.
One of the things that's worked before in the past was us taking our ultrasonic flow meter and getting an idea of how accurate some of these meters are. We went through a process with that voluntarily for many of the well owners a couple years back, where we sent out postcards that suggested we come to their well, check their meter, and get depth to water measurements of their well, sort of like an Edison test is for agricultural projects. And just provide that information to them. And that way, we as the OBGMA have those data, and the well owners receive that benefit of that data as well. And a lot of people are curious. It might be worthwhile to put that postcard back in another flyer, just to extend that out.
So, Chair, I was going to say three things. One, and Jordan just touched on it. I think we ought to take advantage, and I think the combination of the ag users and my guess is the CFD or Casitas probably has access to the efficiency testing of Edison. I know the ag users do, and I'm sure Casitas might. I don't know if they have to do it anyway. But Edison will do exactly what Jordan's talking about, and that is one way of checking the accuracy. So, free way for all parties involved would be to require an SCE test every 5, 7, 6, 7 years, and you probably have to throw in something that needs to be 90% accurate or within 5 or 10%. I don't know what the allowable limit would be. I don't think they come out perfect. From my standpoint, the last thing I want to do is underreport in this day and age, because if you ever get down to an adjudication standpoint, I want every gallon recorded that I've used. So I think the people who are really doing this as a business want to be as accurate as possible. And what United has done, and I disagree with them 50%, they're requiring a photograph every period. And just like in Edison, when Edison used to really read the meters with a human, sometimes they would misread it one month and it would automatically catch up the next month if they overread it. So I don't think you need to do a picture every 6 months or every quarter, but I think one picture a year
Would be a good
would
idea.
verify it.
Yeah.
And with United, we have to email them in, and I just can't imagine that they match every one of them up. But just as I said, if you underreport one time, it'll catch up on the next meter, and if you overreport one time, vice versa. And Fox Canyon has gone to what you've talking about, the self-reporting meters, but I think it was it was a lot more expensive than a couple $100 a meter. I think the Edison way would be and we might get 80 by getting 70, 80 wells, you'd get 80, 90% of the volume.
Thank you. Yeah, the other thing I think is what we need to know is what the delinquent accounts, what volume of water are these people pumping? Are these all minor ones or are they big ones? Because we really don't know that. So we can understand how much revenue we're missing and also understand how much water we've underestimated. So I think that would be, if you could put them in categories of 2 acre feet per year, 10 and then more.
Well, the ones that are many years delinquent that refuse, that feel that they're de minimis, they don't have to pay anything, they're all like under 2 a year.
Okay.
Anyways, and there's only about a dozen of them. This last period, a lot of them didn't realize they were behind, and so it was. A lot of them are catching up, so most of the well owners are very accountable, and report them. But I think it just gets forgotten, or especially since it's 4 times a year.
Well, I guess when I first heard that there was a third of the wells, that can. I mean, your imagination goes, oh my gosh,
well,
but
that was what was behind. But again, it was mostly an oversight. I really truly believe the way it's come in. Really, they responded really fast, and they still have a couple more days, until they're considered late.
Well, how many would you estimate are still out?
I haven't.
Let's just wait till.
Yeah.
Let's wait till we.
Just for
Because it doesn't.
Oh,
they're
yeah,
still
May.
coming in. They'll come in. next month too, be a little late, a week or two.
For clarification, all of the 154 wells are metered now, correct?
Yeah, as far as we
No
know.
exception to meters?
Well,
But that's not
154
what they're reporting.
No, there's
Not
no
everyone are using,
metering.
they're
There's no
reporting crop
exception to the
factors
metering.
without a well.
I'm sorry, would you repeat that, Roberta?
I don't know how many don't use a meter. There's quite a few, and some of them have changed from using a meter to not using a meter, which is,
That's not,
and they're de minimis anyways, when they were reporting it was under
but that's
two.
not,
Right, exactly.
allowed anymore.
It doesn't make me feel very,
no.
So why don't we next month just get, something that says reporting via crop factor, reporting via
Okay.
meter, and then
Right, go from there.
a few.
Have some data on it.
Have some data.
Yes.
Just cut it a few different
And-
ways.
and
How
do by
many-
meter
how many
numbers.
truly are,
Yeah.
1 quarter behind, maybe 2 to 4 quarters behind, and 4+ quarters behind.
Yeah.
Split it 3 ways.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so, quick question, Jim, are we like at about a 30-90? 30% of the farmers use 90% of the water? Or is it just a bigger spread than that?
Oh, it's probably a little bigger spread than that, but it's of the ag water. I bet there are 5 of us that use.
Microphone.
Thank you. I bet there are 5 of us that are the biggest. Might use 50-odd%.
Okay.
Okay. Good.
All right, anything else on that? Thank you. The next item is the treasurer's report.
Small number.
Very small number. We've had, at the end of March, we have $18,000 in cash, if I read this correctly. And $18,000 is about what we spend every month, so
Yeah.
hopefully the first, what do we call this, the first quarter or the third quarter? Second quarter. Hopefully the second quarter payments come in soon. Any questions or comments about the finances?
And you said there's still some grant reimbursement outstanding?
Yes, about $9,000.
So nothing.
I'm not
major-
sure how long they
Nothing
retain it.
major. Okay. Wow.
Okay, no other comments? All right, well, thank you. I think that was it, wasn't it?
need a motion for.
Oh, yes.
I so move.
Second.
Yes.
okay, Director Daddy,
Yes.
Director Finch,
Yes.
Director Wyrick,
Yes.
Director Fielky.
Yes.
And Chair Hughes.
Yes.
Unanimous, thank you.
All right, there's no other business. We're adjourned at 3:46.
Lightning round.
Thank you all.